me. And then we moved here in '73 after the Saratoga meet, so I didn't see Secretariat lose, but went to the harness track, and it still didn't do a lot for me. And then I came here in the summer of '74, and it did a lot for me, and enough that I never really wanted to leave.
What's your favorite moment of all time in this life?
Oh, geez, I don't know. That's a hard one. I mean, there's so many great moments, and you don't want to sort of, boil it down to one. I think one of the most exciting days at Saratoga was Rachel Alexandra winning the Woodward. That was one of the great moments. Moments where friends of mine won big races and being able to be there with them, to experience that with them, those were great moments as well. But I don't want to boil it down to one. I've gotten so many great things out of racing, so much of the great things I've gotten in life. And not just my career, but friends I've made and people I've met. So racing has been really good to me.
For you, right? Who goes down as the best trainer in history?
I don't know. That's hard. I mean, Alan Jerkins is probably the trainer that had the greatest effect on racing. He had so many waves of influence on people in racing in very, very positive ways. And including, getting to know him a little bit, even just in dealing with me. And I can only imagine how great he was with so many people, given how he dealt with me. So I would say Alan Jerkins from that perspective. I tell you, the person in racing who was always the nicest to me when I first came around the game was a guy named Ralph Thoreau Sr. His son worked with us for years at NYRA. But Ralph passed away a few years ago, and he was a contemporary of Alan Jerkins. And I met him when I was about 13 or so. And he was a great storyteller and he was one of the really great old timers of the game who knew a lot about the game. And over the years, next 30, 35 years of knowing him, spent a lot of time with him. He was a wonderful guy. He used to tell me great stories. I'd call him in the winter, and he'd tell me stories about racing. And I was a kid, I loved racing, and we mostly just had Saratoga, right? So he really was somebody who was a great influence in me in a very positive way.
How important is the men and women that wake up and do this job on the backstretch every day?
Well, they're the most important ones. I mean, if it wasn't for them, I would have to work for a living, and that would be terrible. They're everything. The people in the backstretch do everything for this game. They work tirelessly, 365 days a year, 366 in a leap year, and endlessly with the horses. And it's without their sacrifice and their hard work, the horses wouldn't be well cared for, and we wouldn't be able to be here and enjoy this. I wouldn't be able to work here. So they're everything to this game.
And a program like what I'm doing, what you think about this program?
You're like the hero of 2022 in racing. Everybody loves you. Yeah. So, and I agree. You're doing great stuff. So keep it up.
Mr. Abel Cedillo.
Hey, how you doing?
This is Rasai. Abel Cedillo.
How you doing?
Take it away.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, thanks.
At what age did you fall in love with the horses?
When I get here, I was 17.
17.
Yeah,
huh?
I wasn't in my country. I'm from Guatemala, and yeah, my dad has horse, but they're not the same. Like I didn't know about riding horses at all. But yeah, when I get here, I really get in love with them.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw them, I get in love with them.
What's the best horse you ever rode?
You know what? I think my first great one here, Mongolian Groom. He make my name, so that's my favorite horse. Yeah.
Right. How important is the men and women that work with these horses every day?
You know what? I think the important people, that's the people that care about the horses, like 24/7, like the grooms, the hard walker, because that's the one they know more than I think everybody, like owners, jockeys, special. Like I think the groom know better than anybody, because they live with the horses. Like they're there 24/7.
As a jockey, how hard is it to get in to a top barn? That produces a lot of winners.
Yeah.
Is it easy or is it very hard to, ride for a top trainer out here?
Especially here, yes, but you just need to work hard. Every single day, try the best. Work hard is most important. If you don't work hard, you're not gonna get on those barns. But yeah, work hard and show them you can do it. Everybody can do it. Just show them. After that, just give it to God to give you the luck to win it.
Yeah. How special is this racetrack, man?
Oh,
it's beautiful here.
Yes, you know what? Anyone can. I think that's the dream. Any jockey, you get here, you get in love with this track. 'Cause it's a beautiful track.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful view, and the people, they're the nice people, and especially the horses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Who's the best jockey you ever see ride a horse?
Oh, Angel Cordero by far.
By far.
By far.
By far.
Ain't nobody. I mean, when he hooked somebody, he went to the wire with him. They had to beat him going to the wire because they weren't going to beat him.
Yeah.
He'd always come out and hook the horse like this, right, and battle head to head. Nowadays, we claiming foul against him. When Cordero come on, he'd be hitting you, whipping you, and everything, man. Cordero was the best. He still is the best. He's the man.
He's the man.
He's the man.
Yeah, but a lot of people bring his name up when you talk about.
Oh, the racetrack? Yeah, man.
Guy that did it
oh
all
my God.
On a horse. You know?
Well, I'm a bloodstock agent full-time from 1969.
1969.
I started in Italy, and then I was imported in America in 78.
What part of Italy?
Milano.
Milano. Wow. And what made you want to become a horseman?
Well, I used to ride horses when I was 7-year-old. And before to become a bloodstock agent, I was a gentleman rider in Italy.
Wow.
In Europe, we have a registered track for amateur jockey called Gentleman Rider. So I'm a certified gentleman.
And you know, what's your favorite horse of all time?
Ribot.
Say it again.
Ribot, R-I-B-O-T, Ribot.
Yeah.
He was not an unbeaten horse, unchallenged. Ribot, he was the only winner of the Arc de Triomphe, where the jockey, when he passed the post, he turned around to see where is the rest of the field on the Arc de Triomphe.
Wow.
The second one.
Wow, wow.
And he was not an unbeaten, he was unchallenged.
Wow. And
When he won the King George 4-year-old, I was talking to the jockey, Camici, and he says, well, thank God he was a brick wall half mile after the post because I cannot stop him after a mile and a half. He was absolutely a freak.
and you know, right, of all time, right, who's your favorite jockey?
In America, my favorite jockey of all time is Angel Cordero.
Angel Cordero.
In Europe, in the world, is my friend Lanfranco de Torre.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Lester Pigot was a legend. On the French jockey, Yves Saint Martin, he was above the class of the field. And in Italy, the best jockey, just in Italy, it was Enrico Camici, the jockey of Ribot and the jockey for Federico Tesio.
Yeah, wow. And you know, what's your favorite moment for you out of all the years?
In horse racing, well, I was very lucky. I have a lot of them. Well, they are the Triumph of Tony Bean, the Japan Cup of Far Brava, why here in America. Very happy. I bought Brick and Mortar's breeding right after the Pegasus, and then he became Horse of the Year. So when he won the Breeders' Cup, it was a very special moment because he won at a mile and a half with the heart. Not because it was a mile and a half horse, it was a mile and a quarter.
Wow.
But he has willing to win, so it was an outstanding job of Chad Brown.
Wow. And you know, what exactly is a bloodstock agent?
We are broker, an advisor, technical advisor for owner and breeders.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the guy in the middle.
Yes.
Yes. And which trainer is your most special trainer to work with?
Of the trainer, they are alive now. But I like Chad Brown very much. We are very good friends. And of all the time in America, my favorite trainer, it was Alan Jerkins.
Oh, Jerkins.
And Angel Pender Sr.
Okay.
And you know, Alan Jerkins come up a lot, man. And why Alan Jerkins?
Two reasons: the integrity of the man, the dignity of the man, and the creativity of a trainer. It was a different, every horse has a different type of work. It was just how much he analyzed what he needed the horse. It was not just a standard routine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing, man.
He was a very special person, and it was very difficult to get along because he has his personality. He turned down a lot of honor. And I have a little horse myself I bought for $7,000 at the circus in Ocala as a winning. Then when he became a yearling, I was almost intimidated to ask Alan if he was going to trade for me. Alan, he liked me. He said, yes, I'll bring the horse. And he loved the horses. He win a little bit races, no? And I have a great time.
Wow.
I went to see him when he was dying at the hospital.
Oh, you went to the hospital? Wow,
He had a long infection, he was in isolation. It was very sad.
Yeah, that's an honorable thing to do, man.
Yeah, you see him from outside the infection room. Very sad.
Thank you.
your time.
It's my pleasure.
I'm a third generation racetracker. My dad was a trainer as well. My mom worked with him, and I grew up in the barn in Maryland and went to school for broadcasting and got to marry the two together and do the TV work, but also enjoy still getting on horses in the morning for my husband.
And you know, what's your earliest memories coming to the track with your parents?
Oh man, I mean, I fell in love. There were a few horses that my dad had that I absolutely fell in love with. One was the stakes winner named Colonel Hill, and he was this big strapping 2-year-old. I would go up to him and try to pet him, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, no, Maggie. And he was the gentlest soul with me, and I just fell in love with him. And later he became my off-track thoroughbred too, and I took him to all kinds of shows up and down the East Coast, and so he was definitely my heart horse.
Who was your early mentor besides your parents, kind of?
That's a great question, because they were definitely it. My dad taught me so much about horses, as did my mom, and they both taught me the benefit and the value of hard work. As far as early mentors, I had a great trainer off the track in dressage named Linda Spear, and I worked with her for a long time. She taught me a lot about horses and riding too, and I would say she was one. And then, as far as the TV work that I do, Lafitte Pinkai III, who I have the pleasure and honor to work with now, he was one of the people that I looked up to and also kind of helped me along the way.
And your husband told me his favorite horse of all time was Frankel, right?
Frankel, yeah.
Frankel, right?
Yeah.
And what would be yours?
Famous or non-famous?
Just special to you.
My favorite horse of all time was a horse my dad trained named He's a Big Star. He won a couple turf sprints, and he was another one that I took off the track as well. And he was my baby, because when I started galloping, he was one that I rode.
What kind of made you want to get into media on that level?
Just because I felt very comfortable in front of a camera. I felt very comfortable talking to people, and obviously a superior comfort level talking about horses. So being able to do both, I think really is a dream come true for me.
And what advice would you give us, right?
That's not mine, sorry.
and what advice would you give us as a growing platform? Because this content is growing super rapidly.
Keep doing what you're doing. I think telling the story of the backside is something that hasn't been done before, and I think it's a good thing to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really quick, why is this ground on this side like this?
This is tapeta.
Oh, tapeta? Okay.
Hey, Tom, look at that. You got your wife today, man.
Okay, Alejo. Okay, take a turn.
Right, Mag, we're going to have a proper gallop out there this morning. 2 laps, second time round, you're basically going to breeze, okay? Behind you are going to be William and Alejo. You're going in a pair, okay? Just follow Maggie round there, second time around, let them really pick it up, okay? Wilbur, you're going behind the pair, okay? Second time round, then pick it up. Tell me what you think. Maybe he likes the grammar, maybe he doesn't like the grammar, okay? William, he is bred top and bottom for it and looks like he should love it, okay? Take one turn and out you go, okay? One turn, out you go.
Will, if he likes it, let him pick it up all the way around, second time, okay?
There it is, my guy.
We're
And
orchestrating carnage back here, guys. We're orchestrating carnage.
Well, this is what the real play is. The ingredients is all about, right? People don't get to see this firsthand.
There's the real boss behind you.
This the bar, man. You said you the bar, you the boss of the bar?
they say you the boss. This is the real boss right here. There we go.
Vince D. Gregory.
And what's your connection to the it sounds funny saying, but what's your
Long time. Long time.
Yeah. So you got 10
Hall of Fame jockeys.
10 as an agent.
Yes, as an agent, yes.
And
I have more jockey Hall of Famers than anybody.
Than anybody, huh?
I'm very happy about that.
Can
But I
you
put a lot of years in to do that.
can you name them all for us?
Cordero, Pinkay, McCarron, Shoemaker, Georgie Velasquez, Jacinto Vasquez, Alex Solis, Daryl McHarg, Victor Espinoza, and Joel Rosario will be the 10th one.
Wow.
We go to the barns and talk to the trainers to get horses to work, and I'll talk to the owners when they come out here. And my job is to put him on the best horse so he can win the races, because all I can tell you, when you put jockeys on 20-1 shots, they don't become famous. But when you put them on 6-5 shots, they keep winning and winning. You know, and that's the name of the game.
Wow. And what's your favorite moment with all these guys throughout the years?
My favorite moment took me 7 years of struggling in my life, working at all the different racetracks in America, and being broke and being poor, and to eventually have a jockey with talent, and you start grooming him to teach him how to handle owners and trainers. And when you start winning and people recognize this, oh man, you're lucky to be. No, I'm not lucky. I put my time in 7 years of struggling to get where I'm at, but I'm very, very thankful that the opportunity did come around, and eventually my talent with the jockey's talent came together and we became champions. But it doesn't happen overnight.
Wow. And out of all the racetracks, what's your
Well, my hometown is Saratoga Springs in New York, where the Hall of Fame is, and that's my hometown. This is my favorite track. Other than that, Santa Anita, look at that mountains behind you. The surroundings here are outstanding. Also, when I was with Angel Cordero in Florida, Hialeah was another beautiful racetrack, which we don't have now. I'm in the Hall of Fame, accepted for Lafitte Pincay in my hometown. Would you believe that?
You know, that's good memories, man.
Yeah.
See, at least now you live
it.
long enough to have all these great memories.
Oh, I remember
when
them
you
all
can say
like
that
yesterday.
now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you got a favorite horse all the time?
Yeah, Kelso, I said, was the greatest horse I ever saw run, and I saw all the greatest ones.
And what made that horse so special?
Well, he could run all day, carry weight, 136 pounds, 138, mile and a quarter, mile and a half, 5 times horse of the year. You know what it is to be horse of the year one time? He was 5 times.
Wow.
It was fantastic. We have so many women today on the backside, which is great. You know what? When more you're around them, they have more patience than most men, and they love horses, it seems, a lot more than some of the grooms. Some of them take it as a job and just want to make the money, but women, they fall in love with the horses. They baby them, and they get all that love back from the horses. But I think there's a lot of women that are on the racetrack and do a great job. Exercise, or even grooms. Some of them take care of them horses.
Do you remember like a legendary groom that rubbed the horse out of this world?
I remember most of them are dead now, all the good ones.
Yeah.
That were working for Bobby Frankel when they came here from New York.
Yeah.
And most of them are gone.
You remember some of their names?
I know them by nicknames.
Yeah.
One was called Snake. One was Pretty Boy. You know, that's the way we called them in the mornings. And most of them that came from New York were black grooms.
What's the best race you ever seen?
As far as horse or race or what?
Horse race. Well, the best horse race to you, in your opinion, your favorite race of all time.
It would have to be the Triple Crown, American Pharoah one. I mean, God, that's history. It hasn't been done in so long, so for me, that's it.
How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
What's your name, buddy?
Bob DeCinci.
And what's your connection to racing?
Right now, I'm a gap attendant at Churchill Downs. I work the front side for Kelly Danner whenever she needs help over here.
And How long you been involved, man? How long you worked at Churchill?
I've worked here since 1966.
Wow, 1966, huh? And you know, oh man, what was racing like back in 1966?
Completely different than it is now.
Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting, when I first came around here, women weren't allowed on the racetrack after 6 o'clock. If you brought your girlfriend or your wife back, they'd stay at the guard shack after 6 o'clock till you got done with your work, and then you could pick them back up. They weren't allowed back here.
And you know, what were some of the jobs you had throughout the years?
I started out as a hot walker, then became a groom, then was an assistant, then was a foreman. Then I got the good job as an assistant trainer for two. Harry Trotzik's in the Hall of Fame. I worked for him. I worked for the guy that got killed at Keeneland, Del Carroll. He was a top trainer, would have been in the Hall of Trade, but he got killed on a horse at Keeneland. Those were two excellent horsemen that gave me a good background, so when I started out training, I had some confidence in myself, you know, from working for them.
And you know, what's some of the good horses you rode, man?
Well, I rode a horse called Hasty Flyer, came in, was going to be one of the favorites for the Derby, and he hurt a leg. I rubbed a really good horse, an old horse, won about 49 races, horse called Navy Admiral. Just some old-time class horses. I never was in the big time with horses, but when I was with Del Carroll, we won the Preakness with BBB, I think 72, and we won the Diplomat. We won a lot of stakes. Del had a lot of stake horses.
And you know, throughout the years, right, what's your favorite moment?
Well, I won the Stephen Foster here with a horse called, matter of fact, I bought the horse for $12,000, and I won the Stephen Foster with him. And then I won the Louisville Handicap here with another horse and got disqualified. But Tennant's Harbor won the Stephen Foster. And a horse called 2.2 Mil won the Louisville Handicap. And then I had a filly called My Little Firefly. And I won about 7 stakes races with her at the little racetracks. River Downs, Beulah Park, Ellis Park, Turfway Park, places like that.
And you know, what's so special about Churchill Downs?
I tell you, for me, it's because I grew up in Louisville, and when I was a little kid, you know, my dad and my grandfather, church racing was the only game in town. So we grew up learning about horses when we were kids. When I was a kid, there were still horse-drawn carriages. You know, the bread man still delivered bread with a horse-drawn carriage. So we got to fool with horses when we were kids, and we just fell in love with horses. Anybody gets around horses pretty much falls in love with them. There's no jobs back here. You know, it's all a way of life.
Yeah.
You can't come back here and think you're going to work 7 days a week, cold, hot, whatever, and not love what you're doing.
Yeah. And you know, right? Who was the best grooms, man? In your opinion, man, who was the best grooms in your opinion back in the days?
Sweat was the best groom of any of them. Sweat that rubbed Secretariat, he was a top groom. Now there were some other guys back then. The difference in those grooms, they never left the barn. Those horses were their life, you know, they lived with their horses. And Sweat was as good. He not only rubbed Honest Pleasure and Secretariat both. He rubbed 2 champions.
Yeah.
Eddie Sweat, he was tops. Some of the grooms around here, we had an old, well, John could tell you all those old guys. Catfish, I don't remember Catfish's name. Catfish rubbed the hair off a horse, but they loved it. You know, if they walk down the shed and your horse looked better than theirs, they got pissed off. They want to go back and work on their horse more and make him look better than yours. They took a lot of pride in what they did.
And you know, what make a good groom, man, in your opinion?
Loving the horse.
Loving the horse.
If you like what he's doing and you give him an eye and you see what he thinks and he thinks of you, it makes you want to take care of him.
And you know, the name of my program, right, is The Real Players Inside the Backstretch, right? Guys like Eddie Sweat, guys like you that have been here a long time. How important is the guys that work on the backside, man, to make all this thing happen, man?
If you didn't have them, you wouldn't have racing. Half of these trainers wouldn't know how to rub a horse. You know, they don't know how to take care of a horse. The old-time groups were different. We worked on horses. You know, we didn't have all these vets and medications and everything. We stood them in ice, we hosed them, we rubbed their legs down, we grazed them in the afternoons. We didn't cut, there wasn't no 10 o'clock feed and leave. We stayed around the barn until we got done what that horse needed done to him. But not me, that's with all the grooms. I learned from the best grooms there was. I wanted to be a good groom. I was a school teacher, and I wanted to learn how those guys did it, and I'd watch them till I learned what they were doing.
And you know, who was your mentor, man?
I think the best, well, probably, I learned as much from John Robertson as I learned from anybody. He was a top groom too.
Yeah.
And a good guy. Bad gambler, good horseman.
And you know, man, and that's the purpose of this program, man, is to kind of shed light on these guys, man, that nobody really talk about.
Well, you won't find any better. If you could find, you read that book, you get that book, they got it for sale over there, and you can see some of those guys that are in there, and they'll give you an idea of the new ones are mostly Hispanic. They're completely different. When I came around, it was all black and white. There were two kinds of people on the racetrack. People that loved it to be here and the people that had to be here. If that people that had to be here, if that wasn't for the racetrack, they'd been living under a bridge someplace or in jail because they couldn't function because somebody told them everything to do, and once they learned to do it and they fell in love with what they were doing, then they were functional. You know, then they made a living, they were happy. But there were grooms in New York. I met a groom when I was in New York, had been on the racetrack 32 years and had never left the backside of the racetrack.
Wow. Never left, huh?
Never had been off the backside of the
For
racetrack.
32 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's heavy right there.
Yeah,
man.
they wouldn't leave. And we had when I was with Harry Trotzig, we had a boy named Jim. Always wasn't no boy, he's an old man. He'd had somebody go to the grow. He'd never leave that tack room or that barn. Never would leave it. The only time he left when we shipped to another racetrack.
Wow.
You couldn't get him to go out to dinner or go out any place to shop. If he'd give you some money to buy him some clothes or something, that was it.
And bring it back, huh?
Yeah.
And me ask you, man, how old are you, man?
78.
78, right? And why you still wake up every day and come to the racetrack?
I sleep in there. I don't get up till 4.
Yeah, but why? But for you, why? Why still?
I just love being around the horses. You know, horses are like magnets. They draw you to them. And I don't know, it's kind of funny that now I'm a gap attendant, I get to see all the horses, get to see a lot of new trainers, a lot of new ways of training, like the way they changed the Japanese horse coming up to here. I'd never seen training like that before. In all the years I've been here, I've never seen a horse trained like that. I'd seen interval training when they tried that and it didn't work, so. But I just absolutely love being around horses. You know, it's a thrill to me to see one, when you can get a horse and maybe wasn't any count or maybe somebody gave up on it and you win a race with him, you took a lot of pride in that, you know, to know you could work like that. You got a lot of disappointments. There's a lot of highs and a lot of lows, a lot more lows than there are highs.
That's what they say.
But you live for the highs.
That's what they say, man. And you know, it was an honor, man, talking to you, man. You made my day today, man.
Well, I hope you do good. I love to see people write about the people on the backside.
And you know, that's what it's about, man. I traveled all the way from New York to come and interview these guys back here, and you know, thank you.
Yes, sir. You take care.
What's going on, buddy?
How you doing, sir?
How long you been in racing, man?
Man, I've been on the racetrack since I was 6 years old.
6 years old, huh?
And I'm my own trainer, but I work for the association on the, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your name?
Antonio Stevens.
Antonio Stevens, huh? Yeah. And what's your favorite moment, man?
My favorite moment, I got to say, American Pharaoh. Winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was first for me.
And you know, what's your favorite horse all the time?
Secretary, 73. That's the year I was born.
And hey, what you like about my program, man?
I love it, man. It's just a good little podcast. I love it. It's nice.
Yeah.
From New York.
New York.
Saratoga.
Saratoga,
I used to
man.
work for Chuck Salmon.
Yeah.
He come out of New York.
And you know, the name of the program is the real players inside the backstretch, right? How important is the men and women, man, that do this job day in, day out?
It's very important, man. It's 7 days a week. Rain, sleet, or snow, no matter what. Got to be here. Horses can't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Point blank.
Where you from, man?
I was born in New Jersey, Long Branch, New Jersey, but I've been here ever since. My mother's from Kentucky, so come here,
And what's so special about this track right here?
It's history, man. History. My grandmother, and them, they all come out here on the south, call it the hill, South Louisville. So that's really where my family's from.
Oh, man. It was a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.